What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Reviews by Ryan channel. A very happy Sunday to all of you. It is Sunday, May 7th, and this is not a video that I was expecting to make, nor do I think any of you were ever expecting, because I couldn't react to anything else, courtesy of my job situation. But alas, this video is going to talk about my thoughts of Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, and basically me wanting to give flowers where flowers is due. So before that, for those of you who watched my Oshinoko reaction a few days ago, I wanted to give a quick follow-up to my health. Come to find out, I actually caught the flu, and I am still recovering from the flu. My test results came back on Thursday, leading into Friday, and come to find out I did not have COVID, but I did have the flu. So when I recorded that Oshinoko reaction on Wednesday with 102-degree temperature, I definitely had the flu. So I am recovering my energy though. Since that reaction was done, I was not well at all, and I'm slowly building my energy back up. This is the first time since I was 12 years old, and I'm 31 now, so that gives you an idea of the last time I had the flu. It was a rough ride, but I am on the mend now. I have mostly recovered, no fever or anything, and now I'm just kind of getting my strength back, getting my voice back, getting my senses back, and hopefully we'll be back to normal in a few days. So thanks for those who checked in. Now, that said, I'm going to try to keep this brief since I am still recovering, but I really wanted to talk about today's episode and my overall impression of this edition of Gundam. Now, I want to start this by saying that I am not a diehard or really dedicated fan of the Gundam series. While many people in my generation grew up on Gundam, that actually wasn't a series that I really grew up on. I didn't really watch a lot of Gundam. I knew about a lot of the geopolitical and political elements of this series, the backstabbing, the assassinations, the sad and awful endings, the fact that there's no happiness for any children in this fucking series. And I've always known about, these really darker elements. But this is the first Gundam series that I have watched in over a decade. And, for this being my first Gundam series, watching it over a decade and watching the different things unravel between the different companies and Myorin and Eddie prior to her death and Suletta now. And obviously you all now know that Suletta and Eddie are not the same. Eddie actually is a Gundam that was made a Gundam by none other than Prospera, who was her mother. And Suletta was actually one of the many experiments that ended up being a successful one by Prospera herself, and obviously that's a whole other can of worms that has just been completely sad but also understandable seeing that all unravel. And so I want to take this moment to really just express my overabundance of shock, of sadness, and of satisfaction with what they've managed to do with this original series. So for those who actually may not know, this edition of Mobile Suit Gundam is actually not following any source material. This is an original production, so there is no source to follow. There's nothing laid out. They are just coming up with this as the story progresses. And as you all know from any anime that follows an original premise, it can be really easy to get carried away and have too many moving parts happening and really not having an avenue for it to all come together at the end. And with this edition, The Witch from Mercury, this is no different from that big concern. We have many different pieces at play here. Prospera's revenge. Elon and the fact that he now can't go back near Pill Technologies anymore because now he's not in good graces because he didn't take the aerial. Myorin and her situation with her father, which has now caused her to have to pretty much turn into her father in a way and assume the Gundam company that they have going on at the school, and also having to deal with her continued conflicting emotions when it's come to Suletta, especially after the events that happened at the end of the first season leading into this season. You have Ghoul, that, my goodness, that man has not fucking caught a break since the very beginning of this damn series when he lost his title of holder at the beginning and lost his bride. So there's so many things going on here. Nika and everything that happened with the children from Earth and the racism and everything that has unraveled up to this stage in this particular version of Gundam. And at the end of the day, I really sat here at the end of today's episode as we watched Suletta lose everything. She lost everything this episode. Eddie shut down on her. She initially didn't know what the hell that was about. Her mother is obviously conspiring in multiple layers of things. She's manipulated Myonin now, and Myonin, I think she even knows that she's pretty much been manipulated, but wants to have some faith that Prospera is actually going to hold to her words, that she's not going to use Suletta as her puppet anymore, as long as Myonin takes over the company and takes over the Quiet Zero project, which, let's be fair, we all know that Prospera is on a mission for revenge and blood, and she is not going to stop until she has that fucking revenge. And so it was upsetting to me in a way because we watched everything fucking collapse. And it was even worse because literally moments before, half an episode before, we watched Ghoul come back, poured his heart out to Suletta, basically confessing to his feelings and how important she was, and watching that embarrassing turn down, and obviously seeing Myonin listen to that conversation, understanding that when Suletta was talking about that special person, that she was referencing Myonin. And there's so much heartbreak that's playing out right now before us, but I think that watching it all just unravel and just fall apart, it was hard for me to watch. It was really hard for me to watch. How much Ghoul cares about Suletta. We know how much Myonin cares about Suletta, but Myonin is also terrified of the brainwashing that Prospera has put Suletta through, and how much of a pawn she's looked at Suletta as. And we, the viewer, know that Myonin is doing what is necessary to protect her in the long run, but I personally think that was the wrong move. You've now cornered a girl who's already brainwashed by her mother, the fact that she has this really interpersonal connection to the Ariel, that I think this is going to go in a really bad way. I think that after Eddie picks up on everything that's really transpiring now, she's not going to probably accept anyone else using her. Remember that the nature of the duel was he gets Ariel, and I don't believe that that's going to work out the way the Ghoul thinks it does. Myonin, I think she's completely played into Prospera's hands at this point. And there's just so much to unravel in this episode that we would literally be sitting here all night talking about the little different parts that happen. And like I told you guys at the beginning, Gundam is for me, actually, I should say this. Gundam is a really complex series for me to properly react to and to properly decipher without watching it multiple times. There's just so many political elements happening in the background. I haven't even gotten to talking about Shattuck and what the hell he's doing right now, and the fact that he basically wants to take over his corporation now. And there's just so much happening that I can't completely basically decipher all of that in this brief video. But this video really is meant for me to say one thing. Oshinoko is by leaps and bounds my favorite show of the year. Well, of this season so far, and probably will be of the year when it's all said and done. And because of my personal attachment to the entertainment industry and to the elements that are being said in that show, by naturally speaking, I'm going to sit here with biasness and say that's my number one show. But Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch of Mercury, by the stories, by the multi-layered stories that it's telling, by the complete catastrophe that we're seeing unfold with Suletta, and Prospera and her quest for revenge, and Mionin and Ghoul and Nika and everyone else, by the landscape that has been formed before our very eyes. I can genuinely say that this, from a complexity standpoint, may be one of the most complex shows that I've watched this year so far. And it is very probable that when I have an opportunity to go back and look at all the political things that are happening and listen to all the little things that have been said by the different players at play here, this could very well be one of my top 3 contenders of the year, barring other shows that I plan to watch in the summer and the fall. And that's just because there are going to be plenty of other shows that we're going to watch this year that are probably going to have sophisticated plot points, but we're also going to have to sit here and say, do those plot points all come together nicely enough that we can be angry, we can be conflicted, but we can also say, this is a really damn good story. And for many of those shows, the answer is actually going to be no. For The Witch from Mercury, it's coming together. And I feel like now that we have hit our lowest point with this show, I have no choice but to seriously sit here and think, even for this week when I do my ratings on Tuesday, is it time to actually give those flowers enough that I put The Witch from Mercury above Oshinoko for a week? And I might have to do that after today's episode, guys. I really, really might have to. So I did want to take that brief moment just to check in with you guys and tell you, yes, I am watching this show actively, and that I'm very, very impressed with the revelations and how they have presented those revelations to us in a way that it's really fucking messy, but it's also really great for the story as a whole. And, if you're not watching Mobile Suit Gundam, The Witch from Mercury, you should be. So that's all I wanted to say. Again, there's a lot more that I do want to talk about, but after I post this, I'm planning to go rewatch the episode, and I'm actually planning to rewatch the entirety of this second part of or season 2 or second curve, however they're referencing this second part of the show. As a reminder, this show is going on a 1-week hiatus, so we will not have a new episode on this next Sunday. So sad noises, but I also think with the revelations of everything that happened in this episode, we need a week to really take in the story, take in all the parts that are at play here, and really reflect on where we're getting ready to go from here. I'm very terrified for Soletta's mental state. I think this was the wrong call. I know why Mionin did it, but she's backed Soletta in a corner now, and I don't think Soletta being backed into a corner is going to play really well for anyone in the grand scheme of things. I don't foresee a happy ending for this. I really, really don't. I don't foresee any of this ending well, and as most people who've watched any of the other Gundams know, most of the stories don't end well. They end really fucking bad. And so I want to end this by saying a statement that I said to a friend of mine's in real life, and I think that there was a kind of a misunderstanding that since I don't watch Gundam, I don't really have a lot of jurisdiction to kind of say what may or may not transpire. But I said in the very early episodes that this version of Gundam was not going to have a happy ending. I did not see a happy ending for Soletta and Mionin, and the statement was made, this isn't shaping up to be anything like those previous Gundams that we've gotten. And I sit here now and all I can say is simply this: told you so. But again, we still have a whole half a show to go, and who knows, maybe they'll pull something out their ass and we'll get a happy ending of some sort. But if this episode had anything to say about that, I don't think it's coming. I really, really don't. But that's all I wanted to say. Thanks a lot for joining me for this brief video about my thoughts about this episode, about how the entire series is going. I'm very sorry that I'm not reacting to this series, because there would be a lot of yelling and throwing, because I got to tell you, this episode, I literally was just speechless by the end of it. But thanks for watching. If you guys did like the video, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And if you want to see more of my content, make sure to hit the bell icon so you can be the first to be notified when that content is available. So I don't know if I'll make another Mobile Suit Gundam video. I felt very compelled to make this video because of how passionate I am about this series at this point. Again, I'm very sorry that I wasn't able to react to either of the seasons, especially this second season, reason because of my ongoing conflicts in life. But yeah, I'll definitely make sure to check in with you guys when I can when it comes to how I feel we're progressing. So thanks for checking in, guys, and until the next video, catch you later.